Alright, Chris Kugler here, back with another developer session. We are going to be continuing the multi-target QTE that we have. So where we left off, we were going to handle our input check to make sure the player is pressing the buttons, they're pressing them in the right order, and we're going to then, if they've finished it, trigger the completion from our QTE command factory. Otherwise, we're going to trigger the interrupt and end the QTE with either a partial success or no success whatsoever. I think for starters, we're just going to do no success, and then if you successfully hit all the QTEs, you'll hit all the enemies. And I'll come back in afterwards and add in some of the other criteria for how to handle the input and the results. So for this here, in our activate, we set it up. We apply the prompts to each of the enemies on the screen, and we enable the component. With the component enabled, we're going to hit our update check, and our check needs to make sure that we are hitting each of the inputs in order. So we need to track what the current input we're looking for is going to be. And when we activate, we're going to set our current input index to 0. So, if this dot current input index is less than this dot button input order dot length, then we need to check for input. Else, so let's see here. If input.get button down, this will be the first frame the button is down. We're going to say this dot button input order of this dot current input index. This dot current input index increment. This dot is it player dot instance dot enemy focus controller? Yeah. We're going to update the focus to enemy of this dot current input index. And now we're waiting for the next input. So we're not necessarily waiting for the transition to finish. We're just going to go ahead and stream along, and we'll see how this ends up working in a real scenario, but who knows? We'll find out. So we're checking the current input. If the input's found, focused on the next enemy for that input. If all inputs are met, set engagement requirement to true. If the prompt is missed, interrupt. So we are complete on that. If any prompt is missed, so input.get button down, that, else, so face button prompt controller. Do I have anywhere where I'm already kind of storing some of this information? Where's my input controller? Controller input tracker. Where did I put that? System? Okay. So controller input tracker, get face button pressed, get input from pressed face button. Yeah. I'm kind of storing input information here, so we're just going to go ahead and public string array. And this is wrapped up in a singleton instance. I need to, I don't know if I need to do anything else with that, but that's how it is for now. Base button inputs. Get return new, no. So we're going to private read only button A, button B, button X, button Y. Yeah. As always, I'm using the Xbox controller as the default. Base button inputs. This guy. So we're going to add okay, so we're using system.link. So we're going to say if, so input.get button down of that one button. Else if face button controller input tracker dot instance dot face button inputs dot accept Now will this let me give it just in one string? No. What about a okay. So if any of the other buttons have their input down occur, then we have failed the prompt. interrupt just sets this interrupted to true. What do we do in any of the other QTEs? This interrupt, we reset the transform parent to null, which I guess we don't do that here. Well, we do the return to pool, which resets the parent to the whatchamacallit. So it's not really necessary. The enabled false is, though, for us to break out of the while loop. Now, get results. Simon says attack all result res is equal to new res.enemy successful hits is equal to new enemy array of this dot current input index. So 0 would be if we fail the first prompt. Yeah, so current index, no extra addition made. So if this dot current input index is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and do it. So we do it, and for int I is equal to 0, I is less than or equal to this dot current input index, I plus plus. Is it less than or equal to just less than? So as long as it's less than the length. So if we have 3 enemies, we have 0, 1, and 2 are going to be our values. It's never going to hit into here, so this will never become 3, therefore we're still within range of the array length for the enemies with a less than or equal to. Res.successful hits of I is equal to this dot input value, input criteria of enemies of I. Return res. Engage. So what happens when we engage on these other ones? It's been quite some time since I made a QTE, so engage. In this case, we're setting values to be used by the output. I think in our case, though, like, is there anything else going on in this? Enabled equals false. We don't really have any other. It's either successful or not, and the values of whether they're successful are determined by the output. What about the guard QTE? Anything interesting? Engage. Is the range good or not? Enabled is false. Yeah. Okay, so it's really just trying to determine if it's successful or not, which we already know based on our update and our inputs. So for engage on our Simon Says, we just need to this dot enable is equal to false. And that should handle everything. Now in our QTE command factory, we're looking for this engagement requirements met. Engage sets it to disabled. Same with the interrupted. So is enabled false. Pop them down here. If the QTE was interrupted, or rather if the QTE was not interrupted and there's an on-complete callback, we do the on-complete with the get results. And otherwise, if it was interrupted and there's a interrupt callback, we go ahead and do that. And then we return the QTE to the pool. Now, so here's something. Our face buttons that we've pulled out of a pool, we do need to return that. So I think that what we're going to do, well, first off, Simon Says attack all we activate. But the start doesn't necessarily get hit. So we need to... I guess I can just get the IOC container, or rather I can just get the object pool manager from the from this again. Like, it's not exactly an expensive search or anything like that. But that is something we need to do on the not on the engage or the interrupt, but we want to do this on disable. So we need to get this guy, and we're going to say, so how are we going to say this? Prompt, what's his parent? His parent is the, yeah, we're going to do a get component in children from the each enemy's UI manager. And we're going to return it to the pool. So for each enemy en in this dot input value input criteria dot enemies en dot display manager UI manager. I gotta rename that to display manager. I feel like I call it display manager in a bunch of other places for non-enemy uses. Transform dot get component in children. Face button prompt. Face button display controller. Face button prompt controller. Is not equal to null. Then pool manager dot pool dot return to pool. Game object, and that will reparent it back to the pool and disable it, I believe, and all that good fun stuff. Yeah, set active to false. I don't think we actually care about doing anything with the sprite, even though we set the sprite here. I think it's fine maintaining its reference back to the face button controller. Yeah. Anything else in here we need to revert and take care of? I don't think so. We need to allow the player input back to true. And I suppose we ought to change our... Oh, what are we going to do about our enemy? Well, we'll leave the enemy focused to whatever the last enemy the player got to was. If that enemy dies, the enemy focus controller hooks onto those events, and it should take care of refocusing to the nearest applicable enemy. But we do want to set this guy back to true to allow us to manually focus targets again. Yeah, I'm not hooking onto any events. I'm not doing anything like that. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. So, what about UI? So I got my face button prompt set up. It's pooled. Our object pool. So this inherently does not have a UI. But so I goofed this earlier. I meant to put the Simon Says attack all inside of a game object and throw it into the pool. But in reality, I didn't end up doing that at all. So, yeah, once again, we'll keep it simple. Face button prompt. Pool is going to be size 8. Simon Says attack all And we're going to collapse all of our scene objects so I can actually look at a blank section. Create an empty object. Simone says attack all QTE. Get that, there's nothing to be attached to it. Our prefab folder has a QTE folder. Simon says attack all, goes in there, delete that, object pool, see, I don't like that because it's not an object that needs to be pulled in any way, shape, or form. I'm just purely putting it into the pool because freaking consistency, because of this little bit of code. I have an object pool dictionary. What if I have a prefab dictionary? A prefabricated set of objects I'm going to create and destroy. And I can treat this a little bit differently based on whether the key is actually found in the pool or not. Yeah, I feel like it's more important that I do this correctly. So we'll drop that back down to 7 and we lose our thing there. Where did I put this? Object management. Do I have anything that's useful for that already? Game object pool. Object pool dictionary. I could swear, I think in my old scripts and my old prefabs, I already have something that solves this problem. So let's look through my old prefab object here, my prefab folder. Stats tracker, Google Play authentication. Was there something like a weapon prefab dictionary or some crap like that I had? Maybe my old scripts. I mean, ultimately the code is super simple anyways. Player weapon management. What is this? Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm just a little crazy or something. Or I never brought it over from one of my old projects. But that's okay. It's a super easy bit of code to write anyways. Do I have a object management? There we go. All right. Object pool dictionary, object placeholder. Yeah, it's just a lookup type. Game object pool, deactivate after time, activate after time. Yeah, okay. So we are going to have a prefab dictionary, much like our object pool dictionary. Did I even bother with an interface for this? iObject pool dictionary, I sure did. So we're going to also then have a iPrefab dictionary. Ditch these namespaces. Interface, you can't apply access rights. Prefab dictionary, there you are. You are going to be and I do believe this needs to be a mono behavior, yes, because I'm going to attach it. And we are going to have, yeah, so similar, exact similar structure actually. Prefab lookup. It's going to string key and a game object prefab. Public variables, so they show up in the editor. And we're going to do the exact same thing with a public, or rather a private prefab lookup array lookup. Yes. Awake. On awake, we're going to add this as a iPrefab dictionary. And the exact same mechanism here, except with game object. And there we have it. Now, we have our object pools here. I'm going to put this to a new game object, primarily because I don't know if this is going to change scene to scene, but I want it to be separate from system just because it'll be easier for me to maintain. Prefabs. And I'm going to saddle this right next to my object pools. We will add our prefab dictionary here. And he's going to start off with one item. The key, which is going to be, Simon says attack. Simon says attack all QTE. Come on, there we are. Now where is this? This guy's in here under enemy. Prefab. Yeah, prefab, create folder, object management. We're going to go ahead and move our object pools into that. Create our prefab's prefab in here. And since when this awakes, it's going to register. We'll get our reference to our Simon Says attack guy. Now, our usage of this, we'll come back here to our QTE command factory. We're going to look in the pool manager, and we're going to get a pool based on this key. If that pool does not exist, then we know we need to go to the prefab to get our item. And ultimately, both of these are going to result in a game object QTE object. So, game object QTE object is equal to null. Else, we need to prefab dictionary and we need to instantiate our QTE prefab to get our QTE object. So, pool manager. So pool dictionary is not equal to null. Our pool manager is gotten. If pool manager is not equal to null, then our QT object comes from the pool manager. Otherwise, it comes from our prefab. So by that same reasoning, if pool manager is not equal to null, means that we got our object from a pool, else we are just going to destroy the instance. Right? Now, naturally, if QT object is null, then we are boned, and we're actually going to go ahead and leave ourselves a log error here. Do we get a log error format? Yeah, we do. Okay, so that should all be set up now and ready to go. Next video, we're going to add the skill that uses this QTE and test it out and see what all happens. But, you know, naturally, I'm sure everything works perfectly the first time, right? Right? All right. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.